Alright, so we open up to this guy hiding under this girl's bed. He watches her leave, and also seems very comfortable. So comfortable, in fact, he falls asleep. When he wakes up, he hears the sounds of someone clapping. The bed also seems to be moving really quick too. How strange. The man then puts his hand on the moving bed. Then we flash back to see just how we got to this strange scene. We're at school. Meet Mitsui. He doesn't have many friends and he's basically a loner. But at least he gets to wear those cool Japanese uniforms. So all the students are getting their picture taken and no one notices that Mitsui isn't in the picture. He's understandably pretty sad. That means no one, including the teachers, knows that he exists. One day he's vibing in class and this girl Chihiro calls his name. Mitsui looks shocked to hear his own name being called. After class he sees Chihiro talking to another guy. Notice a single hand in his pocket and wavy hair. This man is a stud. Once the guy leaves, Mitsui bravely starts a conversation with Chihiro. They talk a little bit and my man swings the date. The two go out for coffee. They hit it off and Mitsui tells Chihiro that he likes fish. Chihiro goes, "What? No way, I like fish too." So he says that he'll make an aquarium for her sometime. The very next day he heads over to Chihiro's house with the aquarium. We suddenly jump to 11 years in the future. She basically disappeared off the face of the earth. Mitsui eventually hires some detectives and finds out where Chihiro lives. Turns out she got married, has a whole house, and has a daughter. My man's Mitsui gets a glimpse of Chihiro and she ain't looking so good. She looks like she lost some weight and she also looks like she went on an 11-game losing streak on League. Chihiro walks right past my man's and doesn't seem like she cares about her surroundings. Mitsui decides to open up an aquarium shop across the street from her house. And before you start calling him a weirdo and a simp, I think I would be a little curious about how the only girl who ever spoke to me went from this to this. He then starts living in the aquarium so he could spy on her, puts pictures of her up, and creates a dummy of Chihiro so that he could touch her, and alright, now you can call him a weirdo and a simp. We flash back to the past and see Chihiro and Mitsui hanging out. Mitsui gives her the aquarium and the two are having a great time watching the fish swim around. When suddenly, Mitsui accidentally elbows Chihiro's boob. But it turns out she didn't notice. Back to the present time and we see Mitsui spying on Chihiro who's taking care of her baby. He then watches her as she exits the shower when her towel suddenly drops. And we'll just skip over that part because I know y'all don't want to see all that. Mitsui apparently does though because he ends up taking pictures. Mitsui is spying on Chihiro one day having dinner with her husband when the husband decides to try out some combo moves on her. Mitsui gets in a little closer the next day and sees Chihiro saying bye to her husband as he leaves for work. Chihiro turns around and sheesh. By the way, Mitsui used to send Chihiro letters and flowers every day and he sees that she's been taking real good care of them. One day Chihiro is visiting Mitsui's shop and my dog is hype. He even gives her free fish and offers to set up an aquarium at her place. Chihiro on her hot girl summer ting goes, "Sure, I'll take it." Mitsui is setting up an aquarium at Chihiro's house and since his sneak skill level is at a nice 86, he steals Chihiro's house keys with the quickness. He duplicates a set of keys and puts them in the same spot that he found them, and also puts a mini microphone inside of a lighter and sets it up in Chihiro's bedroom. That night Mitsui hears Chihiro in a boxing match through his speakers and she ain't winning. Her husband also sexually abuses her, making her stand in front of him naked while covered in bruises and also crawl around and kiss his feet. Mitsui gets sad, feeling pretty helpless. So he does what any normal person would do and starts sneaking into Chihiro's house to feed her fish for the next few days. One day Chihiro comes back early while Mitsui is creeping around her house. Mitsui manages to escape just in the nick of time though, no worries. Chihiro comes in to buy fish food one day and Mitsui offers her a coffee. The same coffee she had with him 11 years ago. She takes it, says thanks, and leaves. Then, moving on. Mitsui decides one day he shouldn't keep sneaking into her house. It's weird, and he might get caught, so he decides it's best if he just stays under her bed. He hears Chihiro's husband being extremely sexually aggressive with her while he's under said bed. That same day, Chihiro's husband / sparring partner is home from work when he sees one of Mitsui's old letters lying around. And he doesn't seem to like that very much because he heads upstairs and starts really jacking Chihiro up. All the while Mitsui watches from under the bed. The husband then starts hitting her with some light torture, all the while Mitsui's crying. Husband then heads up to bed to get some sleep since he had a long day of beating his wife. Mitsui creeps out from under the bed, brings Chihiro downstairs and dries her off with a blanket. Like her very own weird-ass guardian angel. Chihiro wakes up surprised to see that she's been moved and yells out, "Whoever is there, please help me." Mitsui does not hear this though as he's sleeping. While he's sleeping, he's reminiscing about another time he visited Chihiro. Chihiro tells Mitsui it's not a good time, and we see she has a black eye. Chihiro is suddenly pulled in the house, and Mitsui gets harassed by the stud guy from earlier in the movie. If you hadn't guessed, this is the guy Chihiro married. Mitsui gets pulled in the house and beat up by the stud. He then begins to beat up Chihiro as well. Mitsui has had enough and pulls out some wire from the aquarium tank. He then shocks the abuser and tells him to leave. Mitsui and Chihiro sit alone in the dark when Chihiro thanks him and suddenly kisses him. Mitsui's confused at first, but then kisses her back. The two of them sleep together and we flash forward to the future. Mitsui says say less and gets ready for war. Chihiro's mother calls her and says her dad is dying. Damn, sis is having a really rough week. She's at dinner with her husband and she asks for permission to speak. Abuser mercifully grants her permission. All the while, hey, it's Mitsui, he's hiding behind a curtain. Chihiro asks her abuser for permission to go see her father and he said nah. And I quote, your father's gonna die anyway, so what's the point of you being there? Boom, she hits him. Boom, he hits her. A brawl ensues. But my boy Mitsui is there and he does nothing. Mitsui whimpers behind the curtain while Chihiro's husband forcefully assaults her in pretty messed up and degrading ways. He heads home and he cries because he wasn't brave enough to help Chihiro. Then he tases himself. The next day, Chihiro grabs her kid and hightails it out of town. Mitsui sees her leaving and tries to chase down the taxi, but he's too late. Now, at a certain point, you may have wondered why Mitsui was so brave in the past when fighting Chihiro's husband, and isn't really brave now. Well, Mitsui clears that up for us right now. He narrates that he lied to us. You see, 11 years ago, after him and Chihiro had that cup of coffee, he in fact never saw her again. The whole visiting her house and defending her was something he fantasized. At the coffee shop, she told him she could not accept an aquarium from a stranger like any normal person would and kept it pushing. Chihiro's at a hotel and finds a microphone in her lighter. Chihiro's husband finds her and takes her back home to have a talk about why leaving him isn't what's best for their relationship. Chihiro and her husband do battle. Husband as usual comes out strong and Chihiro has had enough, so she pulls out a knife, but husband shows his resolve and grabs said knife. He wrestles the knife from her and knocks her to the floor. She begins to scream, if you're listening, please help me. Chihiro's husband has had enough and decides to stab her. But before he can do so, Mitsui comes in and tases his lights out. Husband starts to wake up and Chihiro freaks out, so she begins to choke him. Mitsui immediately stops her. He then chokes him to sleep. Yeah, he chokes him to sleep. My man's is willing to take a whole life sentence for her. Now, if that doesn't win the Simp of the Year award, then I don't know what does. Chihiro notices he's the owner of the aquarium shop. The next day, Mitsui turns himself into the police. Chihiro heads over to the aquarium shop and sees that Mitsui has been moving a little weird. She then sees the photo of them as kids and finally remembers him. She heads over to the police station and calls him by his name. Mitsui finally gets what he's been searching for this whole time. For someone to call out his name. Well, that's the end of our movie, folks. A story about how everyone has their own views on happiness and love and would do anything to see their dreams come to fruition. If you like the movie and want to see more recaps like this, hit that like and subscribe button, man. It's a huge help. Take care.